I was involved in a terrible car accident June 20th, 2010. I received a brain injury and a brand new lease on life. I rolled my car on the highway in the Yukon, where I was living Rolled my car on the highway in the Yukon, where I was living, and the brain injury was there. Most was including broken bones, broke all my ribs on the left side, punctured both lungs. My arm was hanging out the window, and when I rolled, the roof came down and cut the top of my head. It was mainly a shear from the actual rolling part, so one side sheared from the other, which was actually quite devastating. I got MRSA from the wound in my arm and being in the hospital itself. This is my vehicle that I rolled on the highway there, and that was, not the best experience at all. It's taken me 8 years now to come to this point here, where I finally feel comfortable enough to share my story and to do this. I spent a month in a coma in Edmonton, also along with a month in rehab, in Glenrose Rehabilitation. I got released from the hospital on my 25th birthday, which turned out to be the best gift I could ever have asked for. I moved back up to the Yukon to live with my mom and her boyfriend. This transition was most difficult because I didn't know it then. However, it's a lot more than I knew. Doesn't make sense. Anyways, no, it was a very difficult transition. I'll just wing it. It was a very difficult transition along that line because I did not feel like I had a place. I didn't know where I was, what was going on. I went from an independent back to a dependent. I was 24 when I rolled. So I had a life. I went to college. I have a diploma in criminal justice for LCC. I had a life going on with future dreams of being an RCMP, and that was cut short at that time. But before all that, when I came back, the alcoholism and drug use became a regular thing, and because I was a grown-ass man, I could not see my mistakes. That's kind of the thing I would use. My mom, I'm a grown-ass man. But because I'm 25 years old, it was a little bit, difficult for her. She didn't want to take away my power of attorney because it's so hard to get it back. And fortunately, she didn't. Anyways. What I struggle with now is balance, mainly, filters, and pain in my left arm from nerve damage. Along with my filter control. Filter control is basically what you say to not be able to stop saying. Think, don't say. That is basically what my filter control is not being able to think, don't say. And I was so confused and angry in the first years to be put in so many different programs and counseling with no success. There was nothing, no new information was given to me. It was always, it'll get better in time. It'll get better in time. Before this, I was a normal person with dreams and ambitions. I have a diploma in criminal justice from Lethbridge Community College. I dreamed of being an RCMP. I worked in youth corrections for a bit in the Yukon, which gave me money to go backpacking over Southeast Asia for 7 years and combined 2 trips. So got a little bit of life experience that way, and I got to kind of get out, got to live before this happened. So after everything, the first few years were the worst, and didn't even know why I was feeling these extreme emotions and why I could not control myself anymore and how I was thinking, what I was doing. Everything that I've lost, I never actually came to terms with yet. So my mother and I moved to Saskatchewan in 2013 and were slowly introduced to Sabia. And I listened and found we were all connected through brain injury. And I'll tell you a quick story how that happened. I was in Arlington Beach. That was my first time. And I went and I said, I don't belong here with these people. They're not like me. They're way worse than me. None of these. Oh, I'm not brain injured, obviously. These are all bad until I started talking to them. And I realized they all are exactly like me. They think exactly like me. They have the same struggles. I just had to, I needed to accept it to myself, and it took the first introduction through Arlington Beach to actually do that. Right. With everything that happened, I finally admitted that I have a brain injury. It's been a steady recovery for me. I'm working now full-time as a residential care worker in a care home for mental illness. The injury allowed me to have and possess most empathy that I've ever had in my entire life. I've never been able to feel like I can now for other people, because you can feel it yourself. And brain injury, it's almost like we're in a separate group, separate club. So, but it's allowed me, I'm so thankful to be alive today and grateful that I found Sophia and know that I wasn't alone. Not anymore. The presentation is a little different in terms of how brain injury affects everyone connected to the individual. However, this is kind of a different presentation in the terms of my mother really went through a lot of stuff. And I really believe that the caregiving aspect is not as touched upon as other parts of the brain injury. So right now, my mother Annabelle went for so many years without the acknowledgements of her sacrifices. This is the other side of brain injury and how it affects the family. Thank you.
I think that should be okay. You can hear me back there?
Oh, a little closer, please.
Okay. Can everybody hear me back there? Yep. Hi, my name is Annabelle McPhee, and I'm Damien's mother and caregiver. I'd really like to thank you for letting me speak to you all here this evening. As parents, we all have dreams, hopes, and expectations for our children and their future. The main feeling, I think, is health and happiness. Things came to an abrupt change for me on June 20th, 2010, when I had to face a new reality that I was totally unprepared for. At the time of Damien's accident, I didn't even know if he'd live. I was with him for 5 weeks in Edmonton, enduring emotions I couldn't even start to tell you about. He was alone for another further 4 weeks, I believe, in rehab because bills still had to be paid and I had to go back to the Yukon to work. No GoFundMe page was happening there. In hindsight, knowing what I know now about brain injury, it was probably better for him and his recovery that I wasn't, there with him. Somehow I think having Mom there would have kind of hindered his recovery because I might have objected to some of the therapy, the pain, and yeah, it was better. For me and my new reality, however, I felt the hardest thing to get used to was the fact that he was not the same person that I gave birth to. He looked the same for the most part, but he was so different. The anger, the confusion, and sometimes I'd go to bed, I'd wake up in the morning and I'd think, today's the day my kid is going to come home, my real one. Never did. I remember the day when I actually saw a real, genuine smile from him. It was about 14 months after the accident. It was a real smile. It's crazy. So we had about 3 years of hell in the Yukon after the accident because it was total merry-go-round, go to Edmonton to doctors, suicidal, addictions. I'm working a full-time job, shift work no less, and no support. We had nothing. So I tried to find counseling, anything, but there was nothing there. Brain injury takes a toll, emotionally, physically, and financially. I tried to stand tall, but there's days I drove home just crying, just shouting in my car, because I had nothing. So I dry my eyes, square my shoulders, and just hide the pain from him. I think one of the hardest things was the loneliness, because all his friends just left. You know, at first they were there, and then they're gone. You know, he was social butterfly, my God, the people that he was with, and then he went to be a total social recluse. sitting in a corner alone. That was so hard. But throughout those other 3 years, everything was focused on him. I lost who I was. I had no idea who I was anymore. I was gone. There was no me left. So my family was around PA, and I knew there was good brain injury support in Saskatchewan. So after 3 years, we came back to PA. And things started to turn around, actually, when we got introduced to Sabia, brain injury, and to know we belonged somewhere. It was unreal. You know, we have our brain boogie in PA, and it's gotten to be a family thing with us. This year we had 4 generations at the brain boogie. His grandmother, me, my brother, my nephew, and their baby. 4 generations. It was awesome. It was amazing. Damien taught me so much about brain injury. He, luckily, as you heard, he kind of regained his ability to speak, like he doesn't shut up much.
Attaboy. That's good.
Which is okay, it's fine. But he can also explain to me the daily struggles he has to go through. Like, I can read body language and social cues. I know what's right, what's wrong in people in a room. He's relearning that. So many times he says he really has foobar moments where things come out where, whoops. But he's learning. It's coming back. So, he does have an excuse, though. He's got a brain injury. You know, many times people think that as the body heals, the brain is healed too. That's not always, that's never right. They look at him, well, he's fine now. Look at him now. He's good. He's working. He's good. What does he need you for anymore, Mom? Well, I'm his emotional support from here on. Like, without, I spent so much time with him. I know who he is now. He knows me. We share our lives. And it's just great. And we couldn't have gotten to this point without Sabia. And the brain injury support we've gotten from them, like, it would never have come to this. So, thank you, Sabia. Thank you all for letting us share our story here tonight.